One of my favorite stories relating to grief is the 2001 video game Silent Hill 2. Any visuals that are in this video are all from the remake that just came out in October, but the original game came out in 2001. Silent Hill 2 follows the protagonist James Sunderland, a thought-to-be widower after he gets a letter from his recent dead wife due to a sudden disease telling him to meet her in a town they once held deeply in their hearts. Throughout the game, you play as James, uncovering secrets and meeting monsters that later are revealed to be physical manifestations of your trauma post your wife's passing. The ultimate twist at the end is revealed that it was in fact you, James, who killed your wife out of an immense and dark form of grief. This form of grief is shown deeply through James through the countless symbolisms and confrontations of his own trauma and guilt. Not only through his action of murder, but his thought process undergone while his wife Mary had her disease. There is so much to unpack with this game, but since we are on the topic of grief, I believe this game depicts a very dark but true reality with grief on the topic of physical illness within one's partner and the process of grief through the caretaker. For one, as someone who has struggled in the past and is currently struggling with a series of serious physical forms of diseases, the way this game depicts the dark reality of a person's mind going through a serious illness like Mary goes through is extremely accurate and unfortunately not talked about or brought to light in most media. As a huge daydreamer and someone who can connect a lot of symbolisms in one's mind, the way this game covers mental illness in the form of physical horrors is extremely important and fascinating in a screwed up but beautiful way. For my third takeaway, although the game is primarily about James's guilt and his process through guilt and shame, his own process through grief of Mary's disease is very real and accurate. The whole part where James murders his wife, of course, is not good and shouldn't be justified, but his process of emotions dealing with his sudden sick wife shows the side of grief that loved ones go through when they witness their loved ones dealing with a life-altering sickness like Mary. Throughout the game, you have interactions with a parallel version of Mary before her sickness, combined with an unrealistic approach to her in James's mind, named Maria. This version of Mary is a fabricated version of his real wife who James has to come to terms with as not being real. Many physical altercations occur between James and this version of Mary in order for James to finally come to terms with the reality of his screwed up situation and the reality of this disease. Some of the types of grief depicted in Silent Hill 2 are traumatic grief, absent grief, distorted grief, and complicated grief. One of the reasons I love Silent Hill 2 is its very real and raw approach to mental health. I am still unsure on what I am doing for my final project, but I know that whatever it will be about the dark realities of grief and through that darkness, a door on how to deal with or fight it. I believe that many of today's movies, shows, games, and stories regarding mental health barely uncover the reality and true dangers that are within. I believe that by admitting and facing these things head-on is the only way we are able to truly fight or overcome them. Silent Hill 2 depicts this reality within the entire game being about James confronting his guilt, shame, grief, and depression, and healing from the dark deed that he did, but finding peace and love that he used to have for Mary and himself.